Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry. I don't even know how to properly recap the previous video. It really just slammed us with a crazy situation, and I don't really know how that's all going to get processed by the characters here, or really me. I haven't really fully processed everything. I'm still kind of thinking about it. It's going to take some time. And we'll just have to continue to progress through, and maybe I'll come up with some better thoughts and opinions on everything other than, people died. But yes, 6 people definitely died, 2 servants and 4 family members. And I'm still kind of, trying to connect some dots between the epitaph saying that 6 would be sacrificed on this twilight or whatever the hell, and then 5 will be the next one. So that doesn't appear to be all that great for what's going to happen this next night, but we'll cross our fingers and hope for the best here. Now, before we jump in here, by the way, that wasn't really much of a recap, was it? People died, there we go. But before we jump into continuing here, I have made another audio adjustment. It's been a while since I've done that. Increasing the music volume a smidge, decreasing the sound effects volume a smidge. We'll see how that sounds after I balance it all out with my voice when I'm editing. And, we have the character logs, which have supposedly been updated, and yep, there we go. We've got some deceased individuals showing up here. So it seems like there's a sound effect that plays whenever there's an update to the grimoire or a tip, and then there's another sound effect that plays whenever we have an update to the characters. Yeah, that's lovely. that's a little interesting effect that they have on his character portrait here. Corpse found inside the rose garden. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems the side of his head was smashed after his death. We start where it all begins. That's an interesting line. Okay, so it gives us an idea of what happened to their faces, I suppose. His face seems to have been smashed after his death. He has the right to lament his ill fortune. Yeah, this seems to be the common thing. It's a different splot of blood on their face, I guess, to kind of signify and show off here, how messed up their face was. She was chosen by the Demon's Roulette. That's all there is to it. We got Rosa here. I'll be seeing her again, so I'm not lonely. We have Shunun. Oh yeah, I remember half of her face was still kind of okay. She got the Kraus treatment. Don't worry, everyone will be revived in the Golden Land. And we have Goda. How unfortunate, apparently he was actually supposed to be on duty in the guest house. Huh. Okay. Yeah, we might have a completely different batch of characters ending up dead if the schedule didn't change. So those last sentences there on everybody's character descriptions, those were pretty interesting. Pretty damn interesting. It is as if somebody is talking directly to us. It's a message, or maybe not to us, but it's a message that's being left by a person specifically. Beatrice? Somebody else? Possibly a family member? Something I'm going to have to continue to think about as we continue along here is who caused this or what caused this. All that could be heard was the sound of the rain, the voices from the kids' TV program Maria was watching, and the engrossed Maria's cackling voice. In other words, what greeted them as they returned dumbfounded from that horrible, bizarre scene was the voice of Maria as she rolled around laughing at the TV. Oh, ignorance is bliss, and so is youth. Those who returned to the room did not know how to explain to Maria that her mother was dead, and were trapped by a suffocating silence. At first, Maria returned their stares with a dubious look. But when she realized they weren't trying to blame her for anything, she ignored them and again immersed herself in the TV program. The children wordlessly sat down heavily on the sofa. Their minds were probably blank from their state of shock. Everyone had already cried and mourned so much, but now they just vaguely sat there, their faces seeming to have lost all emotion. Only Kanon had returned to his usual calm expression. However, that probably didn't mean that he'd been able to wipe out the shock. Oh yeah, that's definitely not going away for a while. But, you know, kind of going back to everybody's initial reactions here, I think there was a sense of disbelief. I do have to give credit to Kanon and Genji for keeping up like a pretty good outward appearance. They didn't seem like overly scared or anything, but you could definitely tell that something was up when everything did go down in the previous video. So I just wanted to throw that one out. But yeah, that whole situation, just wow, honestly. It's still on my mind, as I said. Nothing was reflected in his eyes as he stared into empty space. Hideyoshi kept on fidgeting, and every time he remembered that horrible scene, he started muttering about how he couldn't believe it, how it couldn't have been something from this world, how it must have been the work of demons. Every now and then his mutterings produced a question directed at Nanjo. The latter kept repeating in a calm, doctor-like manner that nothing could be understood by only glancing at the scene, and that until the police arrived, they wouldn't learn anything. However, Nanjo only appeared calm next to Hideyoshi, who simply could not suppress his agitation and fear. In fact, Nanjo had also received a huge shock, and his face was a deathly pale. Maybe that atmosphere was why she tried to rise to the challenge and take charge. Natsuhi appeared to be unchanged from her normal attitude, and she briskly gave directions.
私はお父様のところへ行ってきます。源氏は急ぎ警察へ連絡を。
かしこまりました。
私も一緒させていただいていいかしら、夏日姉さん。クラウス兄さんがいなくなった以上、お父様の補佐は私の仕事だもの。その私が夏日姉さんに任せっきりで、ここでくつろいでいるわけにはいかないわ。
Yeah, this really does throw everything out of balance in terms of the ranking structure, but honestly, is it really the time for that? Natsuhi was struck speechless by Ava's aggressive move in a situation like this. She seemed to be claiming that with Kraus dead, the one to take responsibility should not be his wife, but herself, the next highly ranked in the family. Or maybe she hadn't been at all happy when Natsuhi took command, without reference to her in such an extreme situation. However, even Ava's mind had been blank from shock until a moment ago. She only came to her senses after Natsuhi started giving orders. Yeah, honestly, like, it's a little... I don't want to say that it's rude or fucked up, but I do want to say that Ava and Hideyoshi and George definitely have it a whole lot better. I get it, you know, it sounds really messed up, but hear me out. So Battler just lost his parents. George, of course, lost somebody that, you know, he cared deeply for, but it wasn't a family member. And Jessica just lost her father. So there's some broken portions here. And Maria just lost her mother, so there you have that. Yeah, there's some broken families going on here in the overall Ushiromiya family structure. But Ava and Hideyoshi, like, their line is still good for now.
お好きになさるといいでしょう。
Natsuhi started walking without saying a word more. Honestly, now that I bring it up, it is a little suspicious. But also, why were those that died specifically targeted? I kind of want to know what made them out to be the targets of this night's murders. Ava followed behind her. As they did, Kumasawa ran into the parlor. Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about her. She usually wasn't the kind of person to run around, so under normal conditions, most people would have taken her entrance as sign that something was the matter. But because everyone was still stricken with shock, they hardly even noticed her. Wait, is there something else that's going on?
夏日姉さんならお父さんのところへ行ったで。すぐ戻ってくるやろ。どないしたんや、熊沢さん。
それが。
In the dining hall, blood. Okay, fuck. Everyone thought the same thing. I hope I misheard that. Any container can only hold so much, and no one here would be capable of handling yet another tragedy. so they all thought it. I hope I misheard that. I mean,
食堂
I didn't hear shit.
朝食の準備に
I read it.
食堂に配膳に行ったら
The first one to start running was George. His harsh footsteps jogged Hideyoshi and Nanja to their senses, and they chased after him. Battler and the others followed. Hopefully minus Maria. They flew into the dining hall one after another, but they didn't find any change that might have caused Kumasawa to go pale. To those who had viewed that gruesome scene in the storehouse, it was a bit of an anticlimax. However, Kumasawa, who had followed them, pointed it out. There really were some traces of blood remaining on the floor. Compared to that terrible scene, it wasn't very impressive. However, if you calmly thought about it, this definitely indicated the loss of a lot of blood.
ここにも血だまりがあるよ。これは一体
Was there somebody like walking around or something? Maybe one of the murders happened here?
おそらく昨夜ここで殺されたんだと見ていいでしょう。
そういうことになるんやろな。わしらは昨夜ずっと食堂で話し合いをしとった。そしてここに何者かが押し入ったに違いない。
There must have been some people that stayed around for a bit here. And that's probably where Rudolph and his wife got killed. Or Kraus. Kraus could have been here. He may have also been here. I don't know. And Rosa. God damn.
父さんたちが打ち合わせを抜けて休んだのは何時だっけ？
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, it could be that those who died did not go to sleep at a reasonable time. I don't know if midnight is past a reasonable time here, but let's say like 2 in the morning or something like that. Shannon and Goda were on, duty. Like they had to be around. They had to be awake. There could have been some family members that still wanted to talk when Ava and Hideyoshi decided, all right, time to go to sleep. So I'll just kind of throw that out there loosely that maybe that's the case because they were awake, they died.
昨夜の24時を少し過ぎたくらいの頃や。だからその後にと考えるんが妥当やろな。
I mean, shit, they could have all been in here. They could have just literally all been in here. Something may have happened. Goda rushed in. Shannon rushed in. There you have it.
勘弁してくれよ。お嬢様、しっかり。
俺はもうさっきの倉庫でこの世の地獄ってやつを拝んじまったから。
A little bit of mind break there,
こ
huh?
のくらいじゃ答えねえぜ。
そうかよ。よかったな。私は頭がどうにかなっちまいそうだぜ。ここは食堂だぜ。私は毎日ここで食事をして、学校のことをぼやいたり、宿題のことをぼやいたり。
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of blood here.
学校の成績の話をされたり、そういうところなんだぜ。お嬢様、これ以上ここにいるのはよくありません。100万へ戻りましょう。
俺も同感さ。
Yeah, honestly, this entire situation is very unhealthy for, like, everybody.
この部屋は多分警察にとって重要な意味があると思います。俺たちが踏み荒らしちまうのはまずいんじゃないですか。
Yeah, we should probably avoid this room going forward. Battler proposed this in a slightly firm voice, as, along with Kanon, he grabbed the pail and shaking Jessica's shoulders.
バトラさんの言う通りですな。この部屋にこれ以上好んで居続けることはありますまい。
I don't know, the sense of disgust, pain, and misery. Nanjo spoke while looking at everyone's pale faces. Even though that horrible scene in the storehouse felt like something not of this world, at least then we'd be able to leave, to cut ourselves off from that place and run away. Everyone had shared in that feeling. However, this dining hall was different. It was in the mansion, the main building on this estate. And as Jessica had said, it should have been one of the most calming places even inside the mansion. It was where all of the relatives had eaten lunch and dinner yesterday, and it's where we were going to eat breakfast. The shock of seeing this place smeared with blood reminded us of that horrible spectacle in the storehouse. and forced us to accept that we hadn't really been able to run away from the scene of that tragedy.
わしも同感や。この部屋には犯人の痕跡が残ってるかもわからんしな。
Yeah, but we're not investigators of any sort, so let us, skedaddle.
素人のわしらがかき回すべきとちゃうで。はよ出るんや。はよはよ。
Hideyoshi also understood the meaning of what Battler had said and pushed everyone to hurry out of the dining hall. The way we were then looking at that blood any longer would have been too harsh. Nobody went against his words. Everyone raced each other out of the dining hall. It was almost as though the last person in the room would be trapped in there all alone. Terrible thoughts to have, honestly. But this is just a terrible situation overall. Once in the hallway, we lent a hand to Kumasawa, who was still trembling and leaning against the wall, and we all headed back to the parlor together. Then Genji returned.
お、源氏さん、警察に連絡はつきましたか?
All right. Let's place our bets here. This is all seeming very familiar of a murder mystery, just a plain and simple murder mystery. And what does a murder mystery do really well with, especially when you're stuck in a location? Oh yeah, that's right. Cutting off communications, all of them.
それが
Yep, there we go.
申し訳ございません。
There we fucking go.
無線機の故障か、それ以外の理由によるものかわかりませんが。
Oh man, we are so fucking dead.
なんや、警察に連絡がつかんのか。電話も無線もどっちもダメなんか。
申し訳ございません。月曜の朝に船が来ることになっていますので、その船の通信機を借りることができると思います。
And today is Sunday, right?
この島には船はないんか。
Wait, I can just answer that question. Yeah, okay, it's Sunday. But we have to go through an entire day here with all of this shit here. No communication to the police. These corpses that are just going to be remaining exactly where they are in the storehouse.
新島の警察署までちょっくら行ってくることはできんのか。
秀吉さん、この天気では無理だ。少なくとも台風が通り過ぎるまではどうにもなりません。クラウス様のボートは今修理中で島にございません。
So we have nothing.
ですので、
この島におれっちゅうことなんか。
ってことはつまり俺たちだけじゃなくおじさんたちを殺した犯人も
Oh yeah.
この島から出られ
Oh
ず
yeah.
そういうことになるね。みんなを殺した犯人はまだこの島にいる。
Again, who or whatever you are out there that's just murdered 6 people, oh, I'm sure you would love to do it again. And they could be in this family. I don't know, some shit could have gone down the previous night and one of the family members thought, all right, you're going to die. And so are you. And so are you because you witnessed it. But also, I don't know, I feel like I'm onto something with the idea of those who were still awake got fucked up. I don't know, just something kind of tells me that, especially with what we're seeing out of the dining hall.
親父たちを殺した奴はこの島から逃げ出せずまだ潜んでやがるってことかよ。
And here's another thing, this whole idea of Beatrice, if there are witches and magic and whatever else, well, why would Beatrice do the thing that's in her own epitaph? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Wouldn't somebody here be trying to do that? We're also not even in the right location for it. Where's the river?
見つけ出してやるぜ。警察になんか引き渡すもんか。私がこの手でやっ先にしてやる。
Oh yeah, Maria's here. Maria had finally realized that something odd was happening in the parlor. Rather than noticing something odd, it was probably better to say that she felt unhappy and neglected, since everyone was getting so excited about something only she didn't know about.
ジェシカお姉ちゃん、誰か死んじゃったの？
Well, yeah, kinda. The way she spoke was completely calm, just as though she was talking about someone who had appeared on a television drama, as though it was someone else's problem. Jessica probably didn't like that. Maria's a little different, okay? You cut her some slack. As though trying to say, can't you tell, just by looking at me, overwhelmed with grief, she flared up at Maria.
死んじまったぜ。みんな私の親父もパトラの父さんと母さんもコーダさんもシャノンもそしてマリアの母さんも。
Alright, we're just letting it all out. Cool.
よすんだジェシカちゃん。悲しいのは君だけじゃない。
マリアさん、ショックだろうが聞いてください。あなたのお母さんがな。
I was gonna suggest we go the route of telling her, yeah, you know, they all had to get on a boat and go take care of something elsewhere, you know, like we'll see them tomorrow, maybe.
死んでしまいました。
But no, we're just gonna straight up tell her.
ママが死んじゃった？
ああ。誰かに殺されちまった。悲しいだろうがよ。心をしっかり。
I think we're gonna be getting a response we're not really expecting here.
何人死んじゃった？
6人だぜ。6人だ。くそあんな残酷なことしやがって。踊ってもんがあるだろうがよ。人間ならよ。誰だか知らねえが犯人は人間じゃねえぜ。血の色が赤いわけがねえ。
So why is Maria asking these questions? Yeah, I think Maria might be onto something here.
犯人は人間じゃない。
Oh, not exactly what I was expecting, but Maria is in creepy mode, it
鍵
seems.
が選んだ。
What the
生
fuck?
贄なだけ。
Huh?
おい、マリア、今、なんて言った？
Well, I think she did. Maria had just said something, but since the words were so remotely separated from the flow and context of the conversation, I couldn't understand them for a second. Yeah, can we do a repeat on that, please? Can we rewind a little? When I tried to ask her to repeat it again, I was shocked by the sudden sound of Aunt Natsuhi's loud voice coming from the entrance to the parlor. What the fuck is happening now? It looked like Aunt Natsuhi and Aunt Eva had returned from their trip to see grandfather.
無線でも連絡できない？
Oh, okay.
こんな時に使えなくて何のための防災無線ですか？
申し訳ございません。毎年保守点検はさせているはずなのですが。
ほら、光をチカチカさせるみたいな船舶信号ってあるじゃない？そういうので向こうの島に連絡することはできないのかしら？
そのような設備はございません。申し訳ございません。
Just then, Kumasawa arrived pushing a serving cart loaded with breakfast. Since there was no way we'd be able to eat in the dining hall, Hideyoshi had ordered her to take it to the parlor.
なぜ朝食をこちらに？
ああ、夏日さん、それは後で話す。それよりエヴァ、お父さんはどうなんや？
ご一緒でないところを見ると、このような事態になっても部屋から出ませんか。
I was hoping that we'd be able to hear a conversation with him in regards to all of this going down.
いないわ。
Never fucking mind. Alright, there's no conversation to even have.
部屋は空っぽだったのよ。
Okay, hold on. Hold on now. What does this mean? I heard the sound. Oh, he's just grayed out. Okay. Fantastic. Disappeared from his study unnoticed. Kinzo's study has everything from a bed to a toilet to a bathtub, so it is extremely rare for him to go outside. However, he does sometimes go out for a walk on a whim without telling anybody, which on several occasions has led to a huge uproar throughout the house. He usually comes back as soon as he gets hungry. Usually. Lovely.
なんやて？こんな時にどこ行ったんや？
親方様が書斎を出られたというのですか？
Yes. Quite literally.
そうです。私も驚いています。いつの間に部屋を出たのやら。あなたたちに心当たりはないのですか？
It was probably during the time that we were all running about outside. He probably looked outside and saw what was going down. Natsuhi looked at Genji and Kanon as she said this. Maybe she was trying to ask whether the servants who served directly under the one-winged eagle knew of a place he might go. However, it was probably the other way around. Their faces made it clear that those who knew Kinzo best realized even more than the rest how impossible it was for him to leave his room.
僕たちにも 見当がつきません。
ご存知の通り、親方様はあの書斎の中にお休みの場所からご不浄まで全てを設けさせました。親方様があの部屋をお出になることなどよっぽどのことがない限り。
I mean,
考えられ
personally,
ません。
I love to walk around. I like to stretch those legs. Don't get me wrong, I'm a bit of a, I don't want to call myself a hermit. I don't want to insult myself right now of all times. This is very serious. But no, I mean, even if I had everything I needed here in my room, I'd still want to like get up and, visit the sun, touch some grass, literally, see my dogs, talk to people. But that's just me. Kinzo is a little different.
お父様の身に何かあったのかもしれないしね。
Technically, yes.
そのような不吉なことは考えたくもありません。
No one had seen Kinzo since the discovery of those 6 terrible corpses. On top of that, the phones were broken, the radio won't reach anyone, and there was no way to contact the police. Apparently, the typhoon would leave tomorrow and a boat would come. But until then, no one could rely on anyone outside the island, nor could they escape the island. The tragedy had hit everyone so abruptly that they had lost all of their composure. Everyone felt a heavy silence. Everyone was impatient. Even though they needed to do something, they couldn't think of anything. So some of them held their heads in their arms while others got irritated. Right now, no one could explain what was occurring on this island, Rokkenjima. Yeah, this island sure got real fun real fast, huh? I guess all you need to do to really spice things up is kill a few people. After that, we ate the breakfast Kumasawa-san had made, which felt dry and tasteless. I'm also very surprised that anyone is eating right now. Of course, this was right after something like that had happened. No one felt particularly hungry. However, we understood logically that not eating would weaken our bodies. It would also be rude to Kumasawa-san, who had made the breakfast. Kumasawa-san had taken some unusual Western vegetables, ones that Goda-san had probably ordered for his ultra-elaborate meals and cooked them in a Japanese style, which made them turn an unpleasant color. As to what Goda-san had been planning to cook with those ingredients, right then I could not even imagine it. If I did think about it, I'd be reminded of the way Goda-san died, and a sour taste would fill the inside of my mouth. Everyone pretended to eat for the time being, but of course, no one made much progress. Then we began pooling our knowledge of our current situation. First off, 6 people, which included Uncle Kraus, my dad, Kirie-san, Aunt Rosa, Goda-san, and Shunen-chan, had been found in the Rose Garden storehouse as brutally mutilated corpses. Yeah, they weren't just, stabbity-stabbed with a little knife or something and they bled out from that wound. No, like, they got fucked up. They had their faces ripped. And yet we still couldn't contact the police since both the phones and the radio were unusable. So until the typhoon passed, there was nothing we could do. Furthermore, grandfather, who we might have hoped would be able to show a little leadership in this kind of a situation, had disappeared some time ago. Goda-san hadn't made breakfast, so grandfather's stomach must have been empty. And if he had just been taking a casual walk, we should have been able to hear him whining about how hungry he was by now. And despite that, he hadn't appeared. There was more than a small chance that he had gotten caught up in this crime. According to my aunts, on their way back from Kinzo's study, they had searched for him, calling out on every floor, but were unable to find him. How many floors does this place have? I mean, it's a mansion. It's bound to have more than 2 or 3. Considering the timing of it all, it's only reasonable to assume that this disappearance had something to do with the crime. We figured that Dad and the rest were probably killed in the dining hall and then painstakingly moved to the storehouse. So maybe Grandfather has already been killed and dragged to some strange place, which we simply haven't discovered yet. No one actually said it out loud, but this theory seemed extremely convincing.
私たちはお屋敷の戸締まりを確認してきます。
I don't think that's gonna do much.
お父様も念入りに探さなければなりません。子供たちはこの部屋を出ないように。エヴァさんと秀吉さんは申し訳ありませんが、ここで子供たちと一緒にいてください。南條先生もお願いいたします。
わかりました。ここでお待ちしています。
Aunt Natsuhi followed the servants, Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, and Kanun-kun out of the parlor. All that was left was Aunt Ava, Uncle Hideyoshi, Dr. Nanjo, and the four of us children, a total of 7 people.
みんなで仲良くテレビでも見て待ってよな。しかし日曜日の午前中はろくな番組やっとらへんな。
Oh, come on, I'm sure there's something. Uncle Hideyoshi started acting cheerfully, trying to brighten up this gloomy atmosphere.
ろくな番組見る見る。
お、そうか。マリアちゃんはテレビ見るか。じゃ、おじさんと一緒に見ような。
Maria was the only one who joined in. Even though Maria had been told of her mother's death, she didn't show the slightest flicker of her in her emotions. Was it really normal for a 9-year-old girl like Maria to act so much like a very young child? Everyone else's mood failed to improve, and they each sank absent-mindedly into their sofas.
兄貴、聞いていいか。
なんだい。
さっき倉庫で兄貴はシャノンちゃんの指輪の話をしたよな。あれ送ったのは兄貴か。
I don't know if it's appropriate to ask this. Like, come on now. George Aniki didn't answer, but he hung his head and closed both of his eyes. There could be no clearer response.
よせよパトラ、少しは察しろよ。
だな、悪いことを聞いたぜ。
そうさ、僕だよ。彼女に昨べ求婚したんだ。その時指輪を渡した。明日になったらそれを好きな指にはめて返事としてくれって気ざったらしいことを言ってね。
Oh, come on, I thought it was cute. And that ring had been on the ring finger of Shonen-chan's left hand.
私さ、数年前からシャドウに相談を受けてたぜ。
Oh, really?
ジョージ兄さんのことでさ。
Really? God damn. Yeah, this has been like romance in the making for a
なん
while.
て言ってたのかな。
シャノンは嘘をつくのが下手だったからよ。ジョージ兄さんのことを言ってるのはすぐにバレバレでさ。自分は使用人の身分だけど親しくしてもいいのだろうかとか、男の人の好きそうなものは何かとか、どういう服を着たら喜ぶかとか、そんなことをいろいろとさ。なんつうのか。
That is pretty sad, though. I do feel so fucking bad for George. Like, out of everybody, I feel really bad for George. I don't know. I was kind of rooting for him deep down.
そこでおしまいかよ。
価値観は人それぞれだけどよ。男から求婚されるってのはある意味人生の到達点なんだと思うんだよ。だからきっと昨夜のシャノンは心の底から。
Oh, yeah, she was. She was happy.
生まれてから今までの中で。
George Aniki sighed deeply, without raising his head. Or maybe tears had risen to his eyes.
事件に巻き込まれてしまった。僕があの日、
Oh, don't say that. Please don't say
あ
that.
の場所で指輪なんか渡さなければ、シャノンは、サヨは事件に巻き込まれなかったんだ。
兄貴、それだけは違うぜ。断じて違う。だからそれ以上泣くんじゃねえ。
Yeah, he's gonna try and blame himself. I mean, this is such an awful situation. But it wasn't his fault. We all know it. And I'm sure George knows it too. But he wants to shoulder that. It's not healthy. It really isn't.
バトラ君、そっとしてあげなさい。
After Aunt Ava had said that, I stopped talking to him. Misplaced words of comfort might actually do more harm than good. Jessica sat down next to Aniki and put an arm around him. Maybe only Jessica, who had known about Aniki and Shunun's love since the beginning, and who had even discussed that relationship with Shunun, could comfort Aniki now. I went over to Aunt Ava and sat down in the opposite sofa.
バトラ君は強いわね。もうだいぶしっかりしているように見えるわよ。
Oh, I don't know about that.
まあほら、愛の深さが傷の深さじゃないですか。俺は別にあんなクソ親父同志の方が知ったことじゃないし、キリエさんは気の毒ですが、まあ本当の親ってわけじゃないですしね。
I don't know. Everybody grieves and accepts, death and other, big ass problems in life a whole lot different than others. But he did let a lot of that out. He definitely said some things about his father. I would say regretful things a little bit. And he said some things about Kirie-san as well. So I don't know why I threw the fucking honorific on her ass, but yeah, no, he definitely said some things, and he let that all out right then and there. That may have been all he needed, truly. Again, everybody kind of goes through this sort of stuff differently.
あら、という割にはさっきすっごく
Exactly.
大泣きしてたわよ。
まあ育ての親に対する恩はあの子
そのあたりの切り替えの速さやドライなあたりは本当にルドルフ譲りね。
Oh, that might be insulting.
あの子は
Careful now.
昔から激しく喜んだり悲しんだり怒ったりしたけれど、すぐにケロリと平静を取り戻したわ。
そんなことはないっすよ。俺だってまだまだ心のショックから立ち直れちゃいません。ただ俺がみんなと違うのは、それによってどういう感情が生み出されるかってことだと思います。
どういうこと？
I've been acting much calmer than George, Aniki, and Jessica. That wasn't because my sadness was any less intense or because I had already recovered. My sadness was simply getting replaced gradually with a different emotion.
悲しいっていうよりは腹立たしいって気持ちなんすよ。どこのドイツがこんなことをしやがったのか。横っ面に一発お見舞いしてやらないことには腹の虫が収まらねえんです。
Yeah, what probably could be on people's minds here is that, yeah, sure, loved ones literally got murdered. However, said murderer is out there somewhere still, and they could still murder. They can definitely strike again and take more lives. So that could be on people's minds here. Sure, the deaths of loved ones are there as well, but yeah, there's some evil afoot. That was what I really wanted to do. I couldn't forgive myself if I just sat there, overwhelmed with sadness and hugging my knees.
親父たちが殺されて以降、この島は台風に包まれたままです。つまり、これだけの上等を決めてくれやがった野郎は、まだこの島の中にいるってことです。
Yeah, they couldn't have disappeared anywhere. And remember, there was somebody that gave Maria that umbrella and letter, a letter from Beatrice,
そういうことになるわね。
of which Maria read in such a very strange way. Maria she's got something going on, honestly.
今も
I don't think she's possessed necessarily, but she's got something going on. I felt like I had a very similar conversation with Kirie-san the night before. That's right. After the letter from the person claiming to be Beatrice appeared at the dinner table last night, we talked about whether or not a 19th person actually exists.
お父様らしい手の込みすぎたいたずらだと思うけど。
Well, we just learned that Shenun could not lie at all, so I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, we could have had a cross-dressing situation with Kanon maybe, but I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know. I'm really, if that is the case, if somebody actually did just, dress up and go out there, Kanon is probably the only one that could have, because he would have had to pick up the ring that was thrown outside by Kinzo, which I guess nobody knows about, that he actually did that. We saw it, but that doesn't amount to anything. So somebody could have picked it up, cross-dressed or dressed up, just to look mysteriously like a mysterious woman of some sort, a witch, if you will, and handed a letter that they wrote up in that fine-ass detail, probably with Kinzo's help, and also to give an umbrella to Maria. It just feels like such a stretch when we could just say, oh, yep, Beatrice did it. Magic.
キリエさんと ベアトリーチェは実在するんだろうかって話をしたんですけど、キリエさんも俺たち18人の中にベアトリーチェがいるだろうと言ってましたね。
そんなの当然じゃない。この島には私たちしかいないのよ。なら私たちの中の誰かがベアトリーチェを語ったに決まってるじゃない。
この島には俺たち以外はいないっすか。
当然でしょ。私たち以外の誰がここにいるっていうの？
I mean, how can we be so sure that there isn't anybody else out there?
この島には私たちしかいない。
Like, can you say that for certain?
18人しかいない。なら
Well, 12
ベアト
people
リーチェ
now.
を語るのも18人の中の誰かしかいないじゃない。
Kirie-san denied the existence of a 19th person by spinning the chessboard around. Even though Aunt Ava hadn't constructed an argument that complicated, her opinion at least was the same. Except if that is the case, our situation starts to look very ugly. At the time of Beatrice's letter, the whole thing could be passed off as a prank set up by someone or another. However, if we're assuming that there's no 19th person, we can't ignore this anymore. In other words,
19人目がいないなら、親父たちを殺した犯人も18人の中にいるってことになっちまうじゃないですか。つまり、今この屋敷にいる誰かが殺したってことになる。
yeah, and if I had to point fingers at somebody, anybody at all, it may be Ava. It may be Ava with Hideyoshi trying to cover it up. I mean, they are the only ones that are fine, right? Like, they definitely got away scot-free here. Nobody in their immediate family is, is harmed. Just, siblings, I guess. But their line is totally fine, as I said earlier. I don't know. Natsuhi, I wouldn't point my finger at her or any of the kids or the doctor. So that just leaves the servants that are still alive and Kinzo. I don't think any of them would commit murder. I don't even really think that Ava here would commit murder with Hideyoshi. Like, definitely not. I don't think anybody here actually committed this crime, because that's 6 people. To take out 6 people, to rip their faces the way that they were ripped. Like, that's a lot of effort. Aunt Ava smiled meaningfully. It looked like she thought this conclusion should have been obvious from the very beginning.
犯人は倉庫の中に6人の遺体を運び込んだわ。でもよく倉庫の中に運び込めたわよね。あのシャッターは常に閉められていて施錠されていたそうよ。つまり倉庫内に運び込むにはシャッターの施錠を開ける必要があった。わかる？
たまたまその日、シャッターが開けっぱなしになってた可能性は？
使用人たちは常に閉めていると言ってたわ。
However, with all these guests coming up yesterday, and Conan was doing stuff in terms of guarding at the time, his mind may have been elsewhere. He may have left it unlocked. I'm just saying there's a possibility for a lot of things here.
倉庫の場所すら理解していた。もっとはっきり断言するわ。犯人は使用人室の内部にも熟知している。
Oh, she's definitely pointing her fingers at somebody among the servants. It's definitely not going to be Kumasawa. Definitely not. I don't even think it'd be Genji or Konon, so that kind of leaves us with no more servants. But I will also throw this in. That little design, or what have you, that was potentially done with blood on the shutter to the shed. That is very ominous and definitely should have taken some time. But also, Natsuhi's fucking door. Why would the murderer do all of that? Her argument was extremely plain and clear. If the bodies had been found, if the bodies had been found thrown somewhere in the bushes of the garden, there wouldn't have been much to go on. However, if there was only one key to the storehouse in the servant room, and it was stored with such a large group of keys, a novice would not be able to tell them apart. This meant that the culprit was someone who went into the servant room a lot and was familiar with the locations of the keys. The family members didn't normally go into the servant room, which meant that... No, I don't think so. Yeah, once we start pointing fingers at one another, it's over. It's over. We will crumble apart.
一つだけ教えられることがあるわ。
No, I'm the only one that can say that I can tell you guys one thing.
なんすか？
犯人、犯人たちは複数で、そして十分な武装をしていたと考えられる。
No, you could definitely think that there's more people here. I was saying Eva and Hideyoshi, like they were in it together. So why wouldn't Kanun be together with somebody else? He could have worked with anybody. He could have been the necessary, part of the plan here to work with anybody in the family to unlock the shed, lock it back up after we're done throwing bodies in there. It could have been a whole array of ways this could have gone down here with multiple people.
だってそうでしょ。食堂にいた兄さんたち4人を一度に襲って殺し。
You know, if George had such a relationship with Shunun, does Kanun have a relationship with anybody here? Maybe not a romantic one, but like any friendship or anything? Like they've been talking for a long time, their goals kind of intersect a bit?
これだけのことを単独犯で行えるはずもないでしょ。
It made sense. It probably would have been possible for a single person with enough time, but it would take so incredibly long. It was probably safe to assume that a significant number of people were involved. It wasn't me, guys, I'll tell you that much.
ってことは、エヴァおばさんは使用人の人たちがみんなグルだろって言ってんすか？
静かになさいな。
Yeah, I don't want to think that
憶
personally.
測で言っちゃ悪いわよ。犯人にとって残る私たちを皆殺しにするなんて簡単なことなのよ。
Yeah, especially if we're split up in the same way that we are now. I'd been playing detective with Aunt Ava, trying to expose the person who had killed Dad and the rest before the police did. If only I could cleverly penetrate the culprit's identity and stick the proof in their face. I had been so sure that just like in one of those detective movies, the culprit would then give up and surrender. However, the culprit would only surrender if there was no way for them to fight back. Yeah, this is the real world after all. Well, the real world in a story. What I mean is that it isn't going to be like a Scooby-Doo, like, mystery solve situation. Once you unmask them, they're not just gonna, sit quietly and get arrested, It's not gonna happen. They're going to try and fight back. The culprits behind the crime on this island were far from helpless, and might even be able to massacre all the remaining people here. And on top of that, this island was like a giant closed room cut off from the outside world by the typhoon. So they had a full day until tomorrow to kill, scheme, and camouflage themselves. In short, it wasn't a safe atmosphere where we could get very far by playing detective. To the contrary, we were at a stage where we had to be scared stiff since playing detective might displease the culprits and cause them to commit another mass murder.
あくまでも可能性の問題よ。
There's a lot of possibilities floating around
でも
here.
私は
Everything is really
使用人の人たちを
open-ended.
まだ信用できないわね。それに私は使用人だけを疑ってるわけじゃないわ。さらに黒幕がいるかもしれないと思ってるわよ。
黒幕？どうしてですか？
勘よ。使用人は書いて字のごとし、誰かに使用されて手足となる存在よ。殺されたのは後宮家の親族ばかりなら、その結果で利害が発生する人間が関わるのは当然。
This was also plain and clear. The Ushiromiya family had been right in the middle of discussions about how to distribute the inheritance when grandfather died. If this case followed the standard form of any classic mystery novel, the crime was definitely caused by someone with ties to the Ushiromiya family and who was involved in the inheritance problem. Aunt Ava had probably read a few books in that genre herself. Her argument may have had a few blind assumptions in it, but it was a standard conclusion that anyone might have reached. I think most people would end up suspecting the servants, even if they used different reasoning to get here. Especially the story about the key to the shutter. That made it very easy to suspect that one of the servants was involved. Even if they didn't commit the murder, like, the key had to have been known about. I will say this though, whoever did commit the murders, whether it was, some magical force or literally somebody here, Man, they did not go through Chapter 3 of Higurashi When They Cry. 1,500 seconds, and they fucked up. They left a whole bunch of clues around here.
気に入らないって？
あ、いえいえ、こっちの話っす。
I tried to dodge her question by joking, but I couldn't erase the sense of unease welling up inside me. Oh, there's some unease welling up inside me too. This shit's making me anxious. After all, her conclusion was such an easy one to reach. A conclusion that anyone could reach. And I just couldn't be satisfied with that. If I tried spinning the chessboard around, like I had learned from Kirie-san, this was exactly why a servant could not possibly be the culprit. If the servants really were the culprits, they wouldn't hide the bodies in a place connected to themselves. Why on earth would they use the Rose Garden shed if they were the ones in charge of the key that could unlock it? The police would probably immediately pursue whoever had been in control of the key. It was even possible that some other facts might come to light as a result. The more we think of the servants as the culprits, the less reason they had to carry the bodies into the storehouse. But what if they knew we'd think that, and put the corpses in the storehouse for that very reason? No, that's completely impossible. They're trying to do a self-report. When the police come and inspect the scene of the crime, they'll probably be able to uncover many things. No matter how carefully the culprits carried out that murder, some traces will definitely be found. In other words, they had everything to lose and nothing to gain. If you think about it this way and look at this murder game from the culprit's side, it's hard to imagine why they'd want to call attention to the corpses. Once the corpses were found, it could result in someone sending a report to the police, or it might make the remaining people more cautious, or it might make the survivors start to search for the culprit. None of these things would make life any easier for the culprit. It's just like the words, oh my fucking god. Oh my god, god damn it. It's just like the words of the main character's mother in a novel I read recently called Higurashi no Naku Koro ni. Every story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Eliminating that beginning is essential for the perfect crime. Right now, we don't know where Grandfather is. We don't know if he's already become a victim or if he's one of the culprits. But this state of confusion must be beneficial to the killer. The culprit has absolutely nothing to gain by showing us the bodies in such an obvious way and making us all realize there's been a murder. Yeah, I'm glad we're readdressing this. In fact, this is the perfect place to spin the chessboard around. In other words, showing us the corpses in such a flashy way must be the culprit's goal in and of itself. So at the very least, to the culprit, the appearance of 6 corpses there meant more than the deaths themselves. In other words, the culprit wanted this murder on display. To whom? To us? This is a message. The culprit's trying to shove something in our faces. I don't know what it is. At this point in time, this vulgar mass murder isn't making me feel anything except a malice directed towards all of us. Malice towards all of us. Is it? I don't know. Could we call that malice? Like, usually if you're killing somebody, you have a reason to do so. I think, unless, you know, you just kill to kill. I don't know. I'm definitely not in that fucking basket. Each one of the survivors has some kind of connection to one of the 6 victims. Uncle Krause's death brought Jessica the grief of losing a family member. The deaths of Dad and Kirie-san brought me sorrow, while Aunt Rose's death brought Maria sorrow. I don't know about that. Goda-san's death probably shocked his fellow servants, and Shunen-chan's death brought grief both to Joranaki, who had proposed to her, and Kanun-kun, who had loved her like an older sister. Everyone now on this island has received an equal amount of sadness. Aunt Eva was sure that the servants were in cahoots. But then, how could you explain the deaths of Goda-san and Shunen-chan? Maybe not all of them were in cahoots? Maybe, I don't know. At any rate, by this argument, the grief caused by the 6 deaths hit everyone but Aunt Eva, and Uncle Hideyoshi. Exactly. Unless the deaths really were meant to be random, I don't know. It could have, again, just been the people that were awake. Fuck if I know. Even Aunt Ava, who had directed suspicion at the servants and acted as though she herself was beyond suspicion, could not be ruled out as a suspect. In the first place, she was able to argue that the servants were suspicious by focusing on the shutter's key. But if you look at it from a perspective of motive and who would gain, Aunt Ava's name rises to the top of the list, because guess who's next in line? Oh, this is fun. I've never played Clue or anything of the sort, but you know.
バトラ君が何を考えてるか。
Oh, do you?
おばさんわかるわよ。
Do you? What, have you just been sitting there for 10 minutes and fucking thought? Silence and thought, you know? Shit, what was I gonna say? God damn it. Now maybe it was nothing important. Oh yeah, have you guys ever played Clue or any other detective-based game? Have you guys ever played Town of Salem? That one gets a little chaotic. Once you begin to suspect people, it definitely becomes crazy. I mean, in Town of Salem, you know that there's some killers among you. Like, just straight up, you know that you have a pretty good chance at dying during the night. It's just how it is. That's the name of the game. I don't know if that's necessarily the same situation here. I really don't. I want to predict that whoever killed the 6 people here was not one of the family members. I think that there is an outside force of some sort, human, witch, fucking beast. Maybe there's a werewolf. I don't know. Like, I guess I might explain the faces being ripped off, but the point that I'm trying to say is I do not think that it is a family member. I think, however, that it may have been set up, these murders specifically, in such a way to divert suspicion of another character 100% so that they could suspect one another and create chaos. And then the next night, more people will die. That will be my prediction, ending this recording session. I don't think anything's different here in the character logs. Nope. Same regular color on some people, red on some people, and then nothing here in terms of color for Kinzo. Is anybody else's shit changed? Does not look like it. No, it's yeah, everybody is still the same. Those that are alive, nothing has changed with them, it seems. Or at least I'm not seeing anything here. Wait. Since he serves Kinzo directly, Krause and Nazi think of him as Kinzo's spy. Okay, you know what? I remember that. I do remember that there. Okay. I also do not remember Conan wearing shorts. That has completely changed my opinion about him. But no, nothing seems to be different there. Anything new in the tips? Here in the grimoire? No, nothing's new. Okay. Then we'll save it and we'll just call it there. Looks like nothing has been updated. We're good to just wrap it up here. And in the next video, we're just going to continue to point fingers at each other. I feel like that's the direction we're going in, where the goal here of whoever committed these murders is just to create chaos amongst us. Maybe for entertainment purposes, honestly. Oh, it's getting really gruesome. Well, anyways, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. Let me know if the sound mixing here is a little bit better. Honestly, it sounds pretty good. Music is definitely louder on my end, but I think that's what everybody wanted. They want that. They really want me to hear that music. But I think everything should be good. I'm going to go find out here in just a few minutes. Take it easy, guys.